The media is melting down. The left is losing control, and the Trump train, well, full speed ahead. Over the weekend, President Trump took the ultimate victory lap at the Daytona 500. JD Vance went to Europe and obliterated their free speech laws, and German officials, like clockwork, proved him 100% right. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio just had to remind a CBS host that no, the Holocaust wasn't caused by too much free speech. And if that wasn't enough, a 500-pound rapper is suing Lyft because the driver refused to let her in his car. Well, welcome back to the Kharisma Show. Now, let's jump right into it. Trump just rolled off the most legendary flex, rolling up to the Daytona 500 in the Beast and taking a lap around the track.
Guys, have fun.
It's time.
Warmed up. I know. I can't wait. And Donald Trump taking some hot laps. We expect to talk to the president. And a little later, Morgan Freeman. We'll hear from him live on Fox.
No one, and I mean no one, commands a crowd like Trump. And when the cameras panned to him, guess what? The reaction was electric. The entire stadium was on its feet, waving the MAGA hat, soaking in the moment. Take a listen.
Streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the...
Wow. Now compare that to Biden, who can't even fill a high school gym without handlers dragging people in off the street. This wasn't just a race, it was a preview of 2025. Trump's energy is undeniable, and the American people feel it. Now, speaking of energy, JD Vance just torched the European leaders at the Munich Security Conference for their war on free speech. He straight up called him out for criminalizing speech from a British man arrested for praying outside an abortion clinic to Germany's insane censor laws. Take a listen.
I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person, but no. This last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
And wouldn't you know it, German officials just proved him right. 60 Minutes just aired a report showing German police raiding a man's house for posting a so-called racist cartoon online. Take a listen to this madness.
The punishment for breaking hate speech laws can include jail time for repeat offenders. But in most cases, a judge levies a stiff fine and sometimes keeps their devices. Inside, 6 armed officers searched a suspect's home, then seized his laptop and cell phone. Prosecutors say those electronics may have been used to commit a crime. The crime, posting a racist cartoon online.
Let's get this straight. An actual government-sanctioned raid over a meme? But wait, it gets worse. 60 Minutes asked the German prosecutors, is it a crime to insult people online? They said yes. Is someone committing a crime if they repost a lie? Yes. Let that sink in. Take a listen.
Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there. If we are talking here face to face, you insult me, I insult you, okay, finish. But if you in the internet, if I insult you or a politician,
That sticks around forever.
Yeah.
If somebody posts something that's not true, and then somebody else reposts it or likes it, are they committing a crime?
Yeah, in the case of reposting, it is a crime as well, because the reader can't distinguish whether you just invented this or just reposted it. That's the same for us.
And yet, JD Vance points this out. The German defense minister had a meltdown, calling his comments ridiculous and insane. Take a listen.
This is why I cannot just ignore what we heard before. I cannot not comment on the speech we heard by the US Vice President. We fight for your right to be against us. That is the motto, one of the mottos of the Bundeswehr, and it stands for our democracy. This democracy that was just called into question by the US Vice President, and not just the German democracy, but Europe as a whole. He spoke of the annulment of democracy, and if I understood him correctly, he compares the condition of Europe with the condition that prevails in some authoritarian regimes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not acceptable.
What's insane is that Europe has fully embraced authoritarian speech laws, and the liberals in the US will love nothing more than to import them. But let's move on. Let's move on to Marco Rubio, who just flat out embarrassed CBS's host Margaret Brendan after she tried the dumbest argument in history, blaming free speech for the Holocaust. Crazy, isn't it? Take a listen.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
Brennan claimed that because people were allowed to say things freely, that led to genocide. Rubio shut her down instantly. And I just love it when he said there was no free speech in the Nazi Germany. The Nazis were an authoritarian regime. Boom, mic drop. This is the left's new strategy. Redefine history to justify censorship today. This is crazy. They want you to believe that free speech leads to genocide so that they can justify it in silencing you. And they have the nerve to call you the fascists. Now, for today's reaction video. This one is wild. Rapper Dank DeMoss is suing Lyft after a driver refused to let her in the car because he said she wouldn't fit. Then last week, she literally needed a bigger chair on the Breakfast Club. Can you imagine that? She says she's fighting for her people and changing the world. Let's check out what Matt Walsh had to say. Now for today's reaction video. Now this one is wild. Rapper Dank DeMoss is suing Lyft after a driver refused to let her in his car because he said she wouldn't fit. Then last week, she literally needed a bigger chair on the Breakfast Club. She's saying she's fighting for her people and changing the world. Really? Let's check out what Matt Walsh had to say about this whole thing.
You know, it's no secret that it's very hard, if not impossible, to sympathize with the vast majority of lawyers. We have lawyer jokes for a reason, after all, and it's especially true when lawyers are bringing frivolous lawsuits and doing the whole ambulance chaser routine. You'll find more popular support for acne and herpes than you'll find for these people. But even with that in mind, there are a couple of lawyers that, if you have any heart at all, you have to feel kind of bad for at this particular moment. These are lawyers who are clearly being punished for some sins they committed in a past life, and those sins must have been truly horrific because right now they're having a very bad time. I'm talking, of course, about the legal team of a Detroit rapper who uses the name Dank DeMoss. These are not ambulance chasers so much as they are, I guess you would say, chubby chasers in the most literal sense. You might remember that a couple of weeks ago we discussed the sordid story of Miss Dank DeMoss. She's the woman who was far too obese to fit into a Lyft. She weighed something like 500 pounds. So the driver told her that she couldn't enter his vehicle. And in case you somehow missed the story, despite its plus-sized importance to our country, and indeed to the whole solar system, here's a very quick recap.
Blanding tells us she was just trying to get to a Detroit Lions watch party this month when her Lyft rolled up.
As I'm walking, I see him like making faces or whatever. I'm like, oh man.
She already knew.
I can fit in this car.
But believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
Believe it.
He told her there's not enough room in his car.
The kicker part was when he started to talk about his tires. You know, I feel like that was a slap in the face. That was like my tires, you know, like.
The driver said his tires could not handle her weight.
Every big person you turn down because they can't fit in your car?
Yeah, because they need to order the Uber XL instead.
No, I don't never have to order Uber XL.
What do you mean? That's the reason why they have Uber XLs for bigger capacities, right? So why do you think you're so tiny in terms of you can just fit in this man's car? The man knows what his car can accommodate, and rightfully so. But let's continue.
Now, as we talked about at the time, Madam Dank does not come across as a sympathetic figure in this footage, but her lawyers saw an opportunity there. They claim that in Michigan, it's a crime to discriminate against anybody on the basis of weight. They said that being obese is basically a protected class. So in this case, they're arguing that the Lyft driver might as well have said no black people are allowed in his car. They're equating this woman's decision to be heavier than a polar bear with being born with a certain skin color. And now they want Lyft to pay up millions of dollars. If Dank could not fit in his car or exceeded its weight limit, then I guess by these lawyers' logic, it was his responsibility to come back with a dump truck or whatever vehicle could handle the load, you know. But I have to admit, as something of an amateur observer in the area, it didn't seem like the most compelling legal argument at the time. Seemed like a shakedown where they're basically just demanding a payout from Lyft so that the story goes away. And naturally, that led me to the conclusion that Ms. Dank's lawyers deserve no sympathy whatsoever. But then I saw this footage of Dank DeMoss appearing on The Breakfast Club. And in just the first 30 seconds of her appearance, Dank DeMoss completely obliterates her lawyer's case. She wastes absolutely no time in wrecking every hour of work that these attorneys have put into this lawsuit. It's like watching someone spend a month laying the foundation for a house, only to see a morbidly obese woman walk on top of it and collapse the whole thing. Metaphorically, I mean. And one might even say that Dank DeMoss, chewed up her lawyer's case and then, in an uncharacteristic display of restraint, spat it out. There is nothing left to work with at this point after these 30 seconds. And here's the moment that I'm talking about.
Wake that ass up in the morning. The Breakfast Club.
Peace, Big Dank. How you?
Good morning.
You good?
Good morning.
What's going on? Nice to meet you.
Hi, how are you?
Stormy. Peace, King. How you, brother? You good? Nice to meet you, Keys.
Got it. Yep. It's the only seat y'all got?
What you want? What you need?
There's one more. A bigger chair or something.
Is she already little?
We had
That's what I'm talking about. Good. This is
An entire sofa for this girl. And the other thing is that you notice like how she dresses, her belly's out in just shorts, like so ridiculous. Okay, it's disgusting. I said that. I said what I said. It's disgusting. Anyhow, let's continue.
accommodation.
There you go.
Now, Kish couldn't make it out. Dank walks into the studio and then tries to sit in the chair and immediately asks, "Is this the only seats y'all got?" She's not satisfied with the chair that they're offering, even though it looks pretty large. And the other people are confused because they're like, "Well, what do you mean? It's a human chair. Like, what? The only chair? It's a chair. What other kind of chair do you want?" And then, it's like if she walked in and like broke through the floor and then said, is that the only floor y'all got? You on any other kinds of floors? Well, it's a floor. It's a floor. It's like the floor. It's a floor. It's worked perfectly fine for every other person that's ever walked across it. But then she says she needs a bigger chair, so they roll out a couch for her. Okay, now, which by the way, in case you're not familiar, a couch is a seat made for like multiple people, like 3-4 people. And she took up the whole thing. Tax season, that magical time when we all remember how much fun it is. Most of us who can barely remember which 958-1000 or visit their website, it poses a few problems for your case. Dank, by her own admission, cannot fit into an oversized office chair in a large studio with no other obstructions. Unlike a sedan, there's no roof over your head. There's, or at least not one directly over your head. There are no doors right next to you, right? There's no seat belt you have to put on. Total flexibility, but it still was not enough. She needed an entire couch. So by her logic, if the Lyft driver was bigoted, then Dank is also bigoted against herself, I guess. If the law still means anything in this country, which it probably doesn't, if we're being honest, then Dank DeMoss's case has just imploded. So pour one out for her lawyers, but the interview didn't end there. Somehow everybody maintained their composure after this little snafu, and as the conversation continued, Dank actually drew something of an interesting parallel that's worth taking note of. Here it is.
Oh!
I'm not saying that word.
Yeah, we don't use that word in my house either.
Okay. I thought you talking about the gay slur. I'm like, wait, I'm confused.
No.
But I just feel like it should be accommodated. Bigger people should be accommodated.
Now, you won't find a more succinct explanation for why we should never pander to any group of deranged activists for any reason. She's saying that because society tolerated the insanity of gender ideology, we should also tolerate her insanity.
Ridiculous.
And in a certain way, she has a point. I mean, that's why the solution is to never accommodate any of this nonsense at any point. Once you start entertaining complete and total lunacy, then you get a lot more of it. And as the interview continued, that's exactly what happened. Things really went off the rails, particularly when DeMoss's healthcare provider, who uses the name Stormy, showed up to the set. Watch as Stormy, who of course is wearing her white doctor coat for the interview, explains that Miss Dank isn't really responsible for weighing 500 pounds. Instead, we're informed that the real culprit is Dank DeMoss's thyroid problem.
Whoa.
I do. I work on myself. At at my pace, but
and we have weight specialists right here.
But-
Fix our weight specialist. Fix our mic.
And what's your name, ma'am?
Stormy Anderson.
Stormy Anderson. Stormy gonna get it right. Dr. Stormy.
Thank you.
One time, when you have these conversations with plus size people, it always comes up that, everybody that's big isn't unhealthy, and some people just can't lose the weight. They're dealing with issues like she has a thyroid. What do you talk to us about that?
So I been Dank provider for a little over 3 months, right? And she's lost 80 pounds. Your 80 pounds go look different from her 80 pounds, right? Because she started at 580. So even with her being at 500, people be like, she's still not losing, but that's not the case. Well, her thyroid makes it very difficult for her to lose weight because her hormones is unbalanced. So when your hormones is unbalanced and they're all over the place, it controls a lot of things, and it makes it very difficult for you to lose weight, but keep it off as well.
Let me say, I believe that she probably has hypothyroidism, which is the same thing that I have. Okay. So I know personally how having that imbalance in your thyroid, that condition, can affect your weight. You can easily put weight on, but you also have to manage it. You know that you have a condition. You also have to manage it with exercise, monitoring what you're eating, the kind of foods. And there's no reason why you should have allowed yourself to get to 500 pounds or 580 or whatever ridiculous amount of weight, which is unhealthy and it's obese and it's almost like a death sentence. Okay. So me having that condition too and living with that condition, I take medication for it every night. It's something that once you've been diagnosed, you have to take medication for it for the rest of your life. And also live a lifestyle that's manageable. I mean, whether or not I was, had that condition, I would have been looking after myself regardless. And it's clear to me that she has not been, and this woman should be fired, honestly, because I don't think she's doing the enough job with the discipline to get Dank DeMoss to really manage her lifestyle and manage her weight where it's healthy and doesn't put undue stress on her organs and on her body, because it's the only body you have. But I digress. Let's continue.
So I think for her, she's consistent because she done lost 80 pounds.
It's a medical provider, a doctor. She done lost 80 pounds. She done lost it. But she's wearing the white coat, so it's okay. That's what's important. Let's just assume here that Dr. Stormy actually collected the blood work and analyzed it. And let's assume that Dr. Stormy is correct, that indeed Dank DeMoss has a thyroid problem. That's a real thing. It's possible. But there is no thyroid condition on the planet that causes anyone to weigh 1/4 ton. Okay, there is no thyroid condition that makes you gain so much fat that you now weigh more than 2 full-grown male ostriches.
Facts.
I looked it up. Okay, you cannot blame a medical condition for the fact that you weigh as much as a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Okay?
It's true.
And that's probably enough weight comparisons. I'm just trying to put it into perspective. At most, thyroid conditions make it a bit harder for some people to lose weight and easier to gain it. That's it. The only way that it's possible to exceed 500 pounds is to commit to a lifestyle of extreme sloth and gluttony. I mean, it requires an obsessive commitment to at least 2 of the 7 deadly sins. And if you disagree with that assessment, then your problem isn't with me. Your problem is with the laws of physics. Energy doesn't spontaneously create itself. Calories are a measure of energy.
Exactly.
Therefore, calories do not appear out of thin air and just invade Dank's body. She is consuming them. And in fact, based on her size, she's probably consuming them at every available point in the day. But Stormy won't acknowledge any of this because she wouldn't make as much money if she did. Dank wouldn't hire her. And then certainly, or at least there'd just be one consultation where she would say, okay, well, how much are you eating? And Dank would say, here's what I'm eating. And then she would say, okay, eat like 1/10 of that. All right, let's start. Cut out 90% of that shit that you're eating, and you will start losing weight right away. Okay? It's like that easy. But she doesn't want to say that, and she also would not get to appear on shows like Breakfast Club if she did. So we've talked a lot recently about how doctors and scientists have discredited themselves. And this is another way. They've refused to be honest about what actually causes obesity. Yeah. Lazy people who eat too much become fat. Extremely lazy people who eat extreme amounts of food become extremely fat. That is the whole formula. But the medical industry has not been honest about it. And it's not the first time that this has happened. I mean, the medical industry took a similar approach with something like HIV. They were not, and still are not, honest about the fact that pretty much the only way you get it, the only way people who get HIV, are the only people who do get it are homosexuals and intravenous drug users. So if you don't use intravenous drugs or engage in sodomy, you almost certainly won't get it. You might get other diseases, but you almost definitely will not get that one. But doctors didn't want to seem insensitive to homosexuals, so they pretended that HIV is an equal opportunity disease. It is not. More recently, we saw the same approach with monkeypox. We were supposed to believe that this was some grave public health emergency that would affect, say, a straight 80-year-old man just as much as it would affect a gay 25-year-old in Manhattan. The common thread here is that there is a refusal to be honest in the name of sensitivity, which has led to a lot of needless death and suffering. It's also led to a ton of footage that is frankly embarrassing to this country and to humanity in general. I began this segment with some of that footage, so it's only fitting to end things in the same way. Here, reportedly, is one failed stunt performed by Dank DeMoss in Detroit not too long ago. Watch.
Wow.
So if you're listening to the audio podcast, she fell over. That's what we just played. And just to be clear, the failed stunt, the stunt she was trying to perform was standing. Okay, that's
Jeez.
She tried to pull off the incredible stunt of standing, and she was not able to. So she fell over. Doesn't quite stick the landing. And yes, I played that clip, mainly for the entertainment value. But if I had to find some other reason to justify playing it, I'd say the footage of Dank DeMoss falling over backwards in front of a crowd is, in fact, a solid metaphor for this whole story. Dank's story began with so much promise. Her lawyers thought they had a multi-million-dollar case against Lyft. Her doctor thought she had a totally plausible explanation for why her patient weighs more than a young hippopotamus. And then it all fell apart when people thought about it for about 5 seconds. It collapsed like so many other stationary objects in Dank's life. And that is why Dank DeMoss and her doctor, Stormy, who claims that people can balloon to 500 pounds because of a thyroid problem, are today canceled.
And there you have it. It's so ridiculous that you find that these professionals are lying to you and it's actually causing you harm. And it's true. They lie for sensitivity reasons. They don't want to hurt your feelings. Everybody always say, oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. It's all about the feelings, but I'm not about the facts. And as I said, I've been diagnosed with a hyperthyroidism condition as well. And I'm certainly not. I've allowed myself, and it hasn't affected me to gain those amount of massive weight. And I think she's just using that as an excuse. She's not monitoring what she's eating. Her lifestyle is out of control and she's not exercising, and she needs to fire that doctor or whatever the hell she is, because she's not being honest with her and she's just there for the cash. Moving on to Raw and Unfiltered, where the people speak now. Let's close out with Raw and Unfiltered, where we see featured real Americans' reactions to the leftist lunacy that's happening before your eyes. Take a listen.
If this doesn't make you sick, I don't know what else will. $84 million went to this chick right here. Everybody knows who she is, Chelsea Clinton. $4 million of that $84 million that went to her was spent on her wedding. Just on her wedding. I don't know about you, but I'm just glad that I have $400 a month to spend on groceries, much less $4 million on a wedding. Then $10 million for her mansion. And is there a reason that she can't live in suburbia like the rest of us and pay a normal housing price? Does she have to live in a $10 million mansion? What has she done to earn those $10 million? Better yet, what has she done to get the $84 million that our taxpayers lined her pockets with? What happened to that, Chelsea? I want to know. I want to know what happened to that money. I want every single penny that the USAID has spent and gone through these agencies. I want to know who the end user is. I want to know everything that was done, and I am P-I-S-S-E-D. I am pissed. I don't know about you, but you should be mad. It was already a slap in the face with unprotected borders under Biden. It was already a slap in the face with the unbelievable inflation that we've been facing. If you see any of my other posts, you know I like to talk about eggs because eggs are unbelievably high, and don't tell me it's the damn bird flu. It's not the damn bird flu. It's not the damn bird flu. Ducks aren't laying eggs. It's the chickens. It's not the damn bird flu. It is inflation. Inflation that many of you have argued with me doesn't exist, but yet it does at 20%. It is a slap in the face to know that this organization, USAID, and then this chick here gets $84 million given to her to do what with? I don't know, but we know at least $14 million went directly to her for her house and for her wedding. An insult. It makes me sick to my stomach, and I really hope, I'm sorry, they need to be in prison. In fact, they need to build a new prison just to put the politicians in, because that's how many are going to go down. That's how many they need to go down. Guys, we're no longer talking about rabbit holes. We're talking about caverns. That's how deep this stuff is running. It is deep. And we are still just scratching the surface. This is only the third week that President Trump has been in office. Let me know what your thoughts are. How sick are you? What is getting to you the most? For me, my stomach is turning over having to do my income tax this year because I know we're going to owe money because we just made that much enough to have to pay back.
Everything that Donald Trump is doing right now at this very moment is precisely why he was nearly assassinated twice. It's precisely why they spent years trying to prosecute him for a misdemeanor paperwork crime that they bumped up to a felony. This is why right here, and I don't understand how it hasn't clicked for y'all. All of this money that you see, $20 million going to make a Sesame Street in Iraq or wherever the fuck. No, it's not. No. Like, these things are not happening. And if they are, they're not taking up nearly as much of the budget as is allotted to it. These people are literally throwing money at random bullshit. $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala. Get the fuck out of here. No, you're fucking laundering it and you're pocketing it. And you knew that Donald Trump was the one. He was the one. He is the one who is calling out this fucking corruption, this really crazy, serious shit, and actually knocking that shit out. Like, we're not doing that anymore. That's why they wanted him dead. Because they lose money, they lose credibility, they get exposed, and they were not going for it. Well, unfortunately for them, bitch, we are awake now. The young ones, the old ones, all of us, like, they really fucking tried. And trying to prosecute him, that really just made everything click even more, because it's like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? He didn't do shit. He didn't do anything as bad as fucking Bill Clinton did. How are y'all not seeing it? How are you not seeing it? Cognitive dissonance is a motherfucker. Y'all hate this man so much, and you don't even really know why. Oh my God. You need to be kissing his ass and saying, thank you, Donald Trump. Fucking thank you for putting your life on the line to fucking save us from ourselves.
How refreshing to actually hear someone defend the rights of the peoples of Europe and Great Britain. Sadly, it came from an American called JD Vance at the Munich Security Conference, where he addressed the fact that leaders have cancelled elections because basically they don't want the other team to win. It was happening in our country with the council elections. This is for no other reason. You'll have to convince me very hard that it's for something quite practical. It's not. It's because someone's chomping at the bit to take your seat and you would lose power. It's taken an individual from America to actually address all the issues that are wrong, that mainly stem from unfettered immigration. Immigration that's not being managed properly. Immigration that's absolutely ruined the way Europeans live their life. I'm sorry, when you go to the shops and people are putting barriers up to get to a Christmas market, and we have barriers within our town centres that are permanently there in Manchester and Liverpool and different places. That is our life being eroded. And nobody's bothered. These European leaders are not bothered. Our own leader is not bothered. They say the words, but there's no real feeling behind them. And what really concerns me, it took an American to come to Munich only days after a recent terror attack yet again, which is an attack on the way we live our lives, to actually bring all these issues to the forefront. And the audience was sat there in all their military uniforms. Oh yeah, let's talk about security. Let's talk about defending ourselves from China and Russia. What about defending ourselves from the people where the power's in the wrong hands within our own countries, who aren't listening to the electorate? Brexit never delivered. Sky-high prices for fuel, for heating. Sky-high prices on the cost of living. Tariff to death. While billions are made through the companies that supply us with power. It's just wrong on every level, and nobody's sorting it out. They're just treating us like livestock on a tax farm. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Watch the speech by JD Vance. It's on Fox News, on YouTube. It's really quite uplifting to think there is actually somebody somewhere in the world that sees what's actually happening to people in Europe and Great Britain.
And that's the show. What do you think about should free speech be absolute, or should governments have the power to raid your house over a meme? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss tomorrow's episode, where we'll be talking about the activist pastor who thinks he can run MAGA out of Washington. And I'll see you next time on the Kharisma Show. Take care and bye for now.